again, everyone. Welcome back to Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, on a rather rainy Thursday evening here in Ghostwood Forest. And I'm here with my wonderful co-host, wonderful friend, and someone who can't stop looking at Twin Peaks memes about Laura Palmer, or at least a seal that thinks it's Laura Palmer doing cocaine. Xan Sprouse.
I can't, he's just so tragically adorable. I can't stop looking at him. Whenever I look at his cute little face, I just laugh. It's terrible.
So do you want to explain this for our wonderful listeners out there in podcast land?
Yeah, and we should post it on the Ghostwood Facebook page.
We should.
So there's this meme that I came across on one of the various excellent Twin Peaks groups on Facebook, which you guys should all be part of, because then I just opened the image so I can read it to you, and now I'm laughing again. There's some great Twin Peaks humor and memes out there, but the one that I found, it's a picture of a seal, like in the snow. So it's like covered in snow. All right.
Which normally by itself would not be a big deal.
Would not be a problem. But there's a quote above it where it says, Donna, : do you think that if you were falling in space that you would slow down after a while or go faster and faster? And of course, we all know the answer to that question is faster and faster, right. And the angels wouldn't help you. But then what it is it says Laura, : and then it's the picture of the seal covered in snow. So it's basically like just another creature with a bunch of cocaine on its face.
Right. Yeah. So essentially it's a dig at Laura Palmer having a cocaine problem.
It's terrible, but the seal is just, it's a seal. It's got those pretty little eyes and it's so fat and cute. I just love it. And it's just such bad humor. And I love it.
So if anybody wants to Photoshop Laura Palmer in kind of the same pose with the same amount of snow.
No, just keep using the seal, because the seal is too adorable.
Yeah. We did talk about that though before we started recording.
Yeah.
We were like, that you could do a whole series of memes about, substituting, Photoshopping the seal into Laura Palmer scenes.
Mm-hmm. I said you could do one where instead of a quote from Donna, it could be a quote from Norma saying, Heidi has a nosebleed. You have to do the Meals on Wheels by yourself. And then picture of the seal with a face full of cocaine.
Which is excellent.
Or like, James, you're not a turkey. Laura, picture of the seal. Oh, it's terrible.
Or like, Bobby saying, baby laxative, and then you cut to the seal, right?
Bobby, is this Mike? Is this Laura?
Right.
Picture of the seal.
See, it just writes itself, doesn't it?
It writes itself. I had to close my photo app because I can't look at that photo because I will just start laughing.
Right. And, Xan texted me this picture over the weekend, and it was all I could do to keep from laughing and having to explain to my parents, who I was visiting at the time, all the 20 questions of, like,
you're 80-something.
Why am I laughing at this? Who's Laura Palmer?
Yeah.
What is the deal with the seal? I don't get it. That kind of thing. You know the drill, right?
You know the drill. Anybody out there?
If you have parents that aren't familiar with Twin Peaks, you kind of get this, right?
Exactly. Yeah. If you don't have David Lynch fan parents, you know how this works.
So here in episode 98, we're not going to be talking Twin Peaks, sadly, although that kind of counted, right? That's our Twin Peaks discussion.
Yeah, it's our Twin Peaks discussion on our Twin Peaks podcast. We're done.
It matters.
We can write this off now, Charles. We can write off this.
Check that box. Yeah.
Check that box.
Yeah, but here in episode 98, we're going to discuss Getting Rid of Robert, which is the second of the 3 hotel room episodes that we're doing as we go back, way, way back to 1993 for this HBO series Hotel Room that David Lynch did. And HBO decided, well, hey, let's just air all 3 episodes back to back to back as a kind of extended pilot for the series that never got a series.
Which is not a good idea because these are, I think I mentioned this last time we talked.
Mm-hmm.
And hang on one second.
By the way, I know it's been a while since we've discussed that first episode, but, yours truly had a temperature of 101 because I seem to be having weird delayed reactions to COVID vaccine shots. for some reason.
Fever on the podcast. Fever when you talk about
So
David
I will
Lynch.
take responsibility. It was my fault we didn't, make our previously scheduled appointment to record. So that's on me. I will own it.
That's okay. Sorry, I had to clear my throat because I was laughing so much, and my throat is now like
Okay, there you go.
husky because I've been laughing through my throat. So
Husky.
it is. It's kind of scratchy.
You're getting all Kim Carnes, aren't you?
I'll expose you. Anyway, so the thing about putting these episodes together is that it reminds me of a thing that video companies did in the 80s. In the 80s, when video rental stores were desperate for videos.
Yes.
That's when we saw the rise of the direct-to-video horror movies, the direct-to-video bad action movies. And what companies would do is they would take 2 one-hour episodes of a TV show or 4 half-hour episodes of a TV show that maybe hadn't been rerun in a long time or didn't do very well, and so there aren't a lot of episodes out there, and then try and market them as a movie.
Yeah.
And the one I'm thinking of specifically.
Well, they kind of did that with the Twin Peaks pilot, didn't they?
Kind of.
When they did that, the European version, where they essentially took the pilot and then came up with their own ending for it and turned it into a movie.
Turned it into a movie that now, when you watch it with a series, makes no sense at all.
Right.
Because, they
like intending that it was like a standalone film.
Right. They were intending a standalone film. And if you want to look at it as that bit with Bob was Cooper's dream that he talked about the next day, that I know who killed her.
Right.
Sure, you could maybe make that work, but it's not that great. So
no.
The one I'm thinking of mostly, and this is something I know about because of my MSD3K fandom, is there was a show in the 80s starring Lee Van Cleef and Timothy Van Patten. The show was called The Master, but what they did is they took 2 episodes, put them together, and then marketed them on a videotape as The Master movie.
Right.
And it was just 2 episodes put together, and you're sort of like, okay, he starts out this movie trying to get to the bottom of corruption at a cannery where Demi Moore works, but now he's trying to figure out what's going on during motocross racing with Crystal Bernard. Like, how did this happen? Well, it's because it's 2 different episodes of the show.
Yeah.
That's what this was. It's like, okay, why? Okay, first of all, it was the 1950s. Now it's 1992. And our next episode is going to be 1936. So we're jumping around in time, not really explaining everything, but we're in the same hotel room and we have the same maid and bellhop. And
apparently the same twin beds.
The same twin beds. They just have different
sheets.
Bedding on them. Yeah, they have different bedding on them. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to cobble them together like that. Now, if you're thinking of them as little, 35, 40-minute David Lynch short films,
right,
they make a little bit more sense. But when you're looking at something that is supposed to be like 2 hours long, and I think they're like an hour and 40 minutes when you put them together, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. When you're looking at something that seems like it's going to be the length of a movie, and it's just, okay, here's a story, here's a story, here's a story. The stories don't relate to each other. The only thing that relates to each other is the fact that it's the same hotel room.
Yeah.
I think that is something, like we said before, like the Nightmare Cafe. It would be more interesting week after week, separated. But when you put them all together like that and you're not ready to binge watch a show, you think you're watching a movie, that's disconcerting when it's Lee Van Cleef and Timothy Van Patten. It's even more disconcerting when it's David Lynch.
Yeah, a little bit. Or, all these different actors, for one thing, because it's treated as an anthology. So every time there's one of the stories, it's a different cast.
Mm-hmm.
So you're having to get adjusted to that. And then if you're showing them back to back to back, you have to do that twice.
Yeah. And I think HBO dropped the ball on this one. They could have had a long running, interesting David Lynch anthology show, and they dropped the ball. Now, granted, I love David Lynch and I think this show is fun, but when it comes to HBO anthology shows, they're a little bit creepy.
Right.
Probably did better with Tales from the Crypt, but...
Well, we talked about this last time, that they wanted apparently HBO wanted Tales from the Crypt, but sexier and funnier.
And I think David Lynch would be who you would give that to.
Right.
Or who would give you that, but...
And I'm sure that was their thinking. They're like, okay, Lynch does oddball stuff. We've seen that on Twin Peaks. We know he can handle it.
Right.
But that's not really what we get here.
That's not what we get here. And we get it in this one. Most definitely this one is the dark comedy.
Yeah.
This one reminds me a little bit of the black comedy I Love You to Death, which we can talk about a little bit later.
Okay.
The first one is a straight up supernatural murder mystery.
Yes.
And the third one is a sweet story, but it's kind of a... Whoa, did you hear that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. It's a sweet story, but it's very sad, and it's about mental illness and overcoming that. So it's definitely not funny or sexy.
Right.
Well, it's a little bit sexy because Crispin Glover's in it, so it's a little bit sexy. But
as far as you're concerned, yes.
As far as I'm concerned, yeah. Well, this one's sexy too because Griffin Dunne. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Right.
But this is the only one that I think is sexy and funny, and I honestly think, Charles, I'm thinking about this. I think it took movie studios, network executives, corporate Hollywood brass.
Right.
I think it took them 25 years of Twin Peaks fandom for them to realize just what David Lynch can do with television.
Well, it's not surprising, is it? Because we know that, as kind of parodied on the air,
Mm-hmm.
network executives are kind of like they have strict expectations going in of what they want, and they're very inflexible.
Right.
So when you give them something different, their brains don't compute, and they don't know how to deal with it.
And I know David Lynch had some problems with Showtime,
Mm-hmm.
but Showtime did what they were supposed to do. They marketed this properly.
Right.
They let him tell the story that he was going to tell.
They gave him those extra episodes that he wanted.
They gave him the extra episodes he wanted.
Yep.
And as difficult as it was for us, the people who've been waiting 26 years to find out that Cooper was going to be okay and that everything was fine, and get that. As hard as that was from the standpoint of how I want my favorite characters to be okay, I loved it from the standpoint of this was fantastic. This was a fantastic story, and I like that we have new questions.
Yes, we do.
And it's like Showtime figured that out. They figured out these are people who you left them on a cliffhanger 25 years ago, and they are still salivating for it. These characters left an indelible mark on television culture.
Well, I think that's why they also left the door open,
mm-hmm.
because they realized that fans would want more.
Yeah.
Like if David Lynch did decide, okay, I want to do Twin Peaks season 4, which obviously we would heartily support. He does.
David Lynch, you actually do want to do that. You want to do it for me.
Not at all for any selfish reasons whatsoever, right?
It's almost Charles's birthday, so
that would be wouldn't that be a great time for an announcement of Twin Peaks season 4?
That'd be great. Also, next Thursday is the 30th anniversary of Twin Peaks going off the air.
There you go.
It's June 10th, and Twin Peaks, the finale of Twin Peaks aired June 10th, 1991.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, so 30 years is as good a time as any.
We were all screaming by that point after watching that final cliffhanger.
Yeah, exactly.
With Cooper in the bathroom being possessed by Bob.
And you want to do this.
Yeah, exactly. So Lynch stopped. You don't need to keep making weather reports, as great as those are. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, we love them. Please,
we love them.
We know what Jack did.
Right.
So now it's time to come back to Twin Peaks.
Exactly.
Mark Frost wants you to do it too. He told me if he wanted you to come back and do this.
Exactly. But my point was that Showtime is open to the idea.
Mm-hmm. And I think Showtime figured it out. I mean, I think if HBO had figured out what to do with the show back in the day,
Yeah.
I think the relationship for the return would have been with HBO instead of
Showtime.
Showtime.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe not
Yeah.
Game of Thrones.
Right.
Game of Thrones was still running when this happened, and HBO was not going to.
No,
They weren't going to turn that They weren't going to stop that gravy train if they could help it. So
no, because they that's why they kept throwing money at it, because they're like, well, we know we're going to get ratings for this.
Well, right.
People
You
are
throw
invested.
money at a.
People are invested, so they're going to stick with this thing through the end. And consequently,
Yeah,
I don't know
at the proven seller.
Yeah, and I don't know if they would have invested as much into because having that big hit, in something little.
Mm-hmm.
But they do seem to be experimenting more, because we get shows
they
like
definitely are.
they get with Watchmen. They had never done anything with a comic book property.
No, they had not.
And then Lovecraft Country.
Lovecraft Country, very different.
So they do seem to be experimenting a little bit. They're pushing beyond their typical like detective shows or dramas or what have you. So, or biographical.
Once again, though,
films.
I would like to just go on the record as saying you wouldn't be able to have a Watchmen or Lovecraft Country if it hadn't been a Twin Peaks 30 years ago.
Exactly. Yes.
Change the face of television. I can't say it enough. And I won't say it enough. I will say it every time we talk about Twin Peaks.
Well, it deserves its credit. Yes, I totally agree.
It does. It absolutely does.
And I don't know why more people don't say that, quite honestly.
And I will name drop and say David B. and Cooley agrees with me.
There you go.
And, he's Mr. TV on NPR, and how much more credible can you get?
Exactly. All right. So this is, like Xan said, this is the second episode of Hotel Room, aired on with the other two on January 8th, 1993, written by Jay McInerney.
Jay McInerney.
McInerney, excuse me.
McInerney. Yeah, Jay
McInerney.
Jay McInerney
Thank you for correcting me.
No, it's okay. It's okay. He's just a writer, I know. Back in the 80s, there was this crop of authors that were sort of like Brat Pack authors is what they were sort of looked at. Yeah. Like they were these sort of young,
like a less than zero type.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. It's Jay McInerney, Tana Janowitz, and Bret Easton Ellis are the ones who are sort of thought of in that same genre. Bret Easton Ellis is, of course, who wrote Less Than Zero.
Right.
Jay McInerney wrote Bright Lights, Big City.
Yeah.
So this is that era of novel where it's that East Coast, sometimes West Coast. I'm this young white kid from privilege, from money. I just got out of college where I did nothing but cocaine. And now...
Like the Seal.
Like the Seal, yeah. So, Jay McInerney, kind of perfect to write for David Lynch, I suppose. And I think we talked about this a little bit last time, that Bright Lights, Big City is about a character who gets so entrenched in cocaine addiction that he loses his marriage, and he does not know that his mother died for a year. His brother tries to tell him, he keeps dodging phone calls from his brother for like a year.
Okay.
Only to find out that his mother has died, and she died from cancer. So it's basically sort of like that New York fast lane, I got a good job in New York, right. Cocaine fueled type. That sort of like, I am a white kid with privilege in the 80s and I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Right. I'm out of control.
That kind out of control. Yeah. It's that kind of genre. And Jay McInerney was part of that.
Yeah.
And so the story is very Jay McInerney, where it's about Hollywood people and people who are very image conscious and money conscious and all about upward mobility.
Well, I think because of the settings in New York, it's probably a New York socialite. Correct.
Right. All about how much alimony she got,
Mm-hmm.
when's the ring going to be on my finger and is it a good enough ring? That sort of.
They're all very vapid characters.
They're very vapid and superficial and
Selfish.
materialistic.
That too, yeah.
They're very materialistic. So
because they're talking about like wanting to marry guys for money. So essentially, they're kind of like almost gold diggers a little bit.
They're and the thing is, they seem like they come from money themselves.
Right.
So it's not like they're trying to sort of, infiltrate the scene to try and marry up or something like that. They're just trying to marry what they feel that they merit. Yeah. And as we find out, they've all sort of been with the same guys. They
run in the same crowd.
Right. There's the one who dated Robert before Sasha dated Robert, and then.
Well, that was one thing one thing I noticed is that, like, through various times in this episode, one character will remark like, "Oh, I didn't know you knew about this," or "I didn't know you dated this guy," or "I don't know, like, I didn't know you dated, or had sex with this guy."
Right, exactly.
So it's kind of like they don't really know each other in a lot of ways.
No,
they're not very open and honest with each other.
Right. All they're talking about is the brass that they buy at the estate sales or the clothing or. So it's very, very, these are very superficial friendships,
Yes.
They're having champagne and beluga caviar, which, that was interesting that they ate the beluga caviar, but like not on anything.
Right. Yeah. They just kind of like,
spooned it in their mouth.
Yeah. They spooned it. Yeah.
And part of me wondered, is that, did they not eat the toast points because they didn't know they were supposed to? Or what?
I don't know.
I thought that was interesting. But yeah, there's a scene where Tina's talking about how beluga reminds her of this one guy.
This guy that used to send her cases of that.
And then Sasha says, all he sent me was his bad poetry. She's like, I didn't know you knew him. And
yeah.
That they've been around the same circles for a while, trying to find a guy.
Yeah. And apparently there's a lot of pressure they're putting on each other because a lot of especially Sasha, who I think is the most horrible for rather obvious reasons. But,
right.
But she, she's keeps telling the other characters, well, you kind of need to go out there and get a guy while you still have your looks, right? Mm-hmm. Because, once that's gone, you're not going to be able to get a guy.
Right.
Regardless of anything oh, hey, you could get a career and,
right.
Why do you, but that just doesn't, enter into their world, their thinking, because all they can think of is oh, well, I need a sugar daddy, so therefore I'm going to marry this guy, and because he's rich, and that way I can keep my lifestyle.
Or God forbid you marry someone that loves you for who you are.
Yeah, right.
Who loves you as a person, not as a photograph.
Yeah.
So yeah, and there's probably a certain cynicism that we're seeing with Jay McInerney in this because of probably having dealt with a lot of that around this time.
Yeah, probably people he knew, and so he's putting that into his work. You always write what you know, or at least you should as a writer.
Right.
And that's probably what he knows.
And being in that New York scene, probably being at parties with, women like this, he's been married 4 times.
Understandable. And probably hearing all kinds of stories from his friends and whatnot.
Right. His first wife was a model, and I've always wondered how similar his marriage was to the marriage of the characters in Bright Lights, Big City.
Okay. So you think he was almost sort of writing an autobiography?
I wonder if there are parallels to that, because in Bright Lights, Big City, our main character Jamie is married to a model and they get divorced because of his cocaine problem.
Okay.
So, and
everybody's got a cocaine problem in the 80s.
Oh, so many seals, Charles. So many seals.
Somebody tells me that's going to be a recurring gag every time we bring up cocaine.
I think it needs to be.
I think it's going to be. So you might be.
So
this is a historic episode now, right? Yeah.
Right. So we open up where we have, the bellhop is helping Sasha to the room, even though Sasha doesn't have any bags, which I thought was interesting.
Oh, can I bring up the director first before we get into this?
Oh, please, yes.
Yeah. This was directed by James Signorelli. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that right for DJ Nick, our mutual friend. But he's notable because he directed a lot of the SNL Saturday Night Live Best of specials.
Right.
And also the movie Easy Money with Rodney Dangerfield.
Mm-hmm.
He also directed Police Academy 2, their first assignment. And
nice.
And Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
An underrated classic, that one.
I've never seen that movie.
It's fine. Yeah. He's also
featuring Boobarella from The Simpsons. Yes.
With my boobs. He's also the director of photography on Superfly.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's done some stuff. So yeah. And if you said it wrong, DJ Nick will tell you about it.
Okay.
It's fine.
All right. Well, all right, Nick, feel free to correct me. You're good at that. So that's cool. That's cool.
So what happens in this, and there's another thing that I think is interesting, and I also think it's maybe a bit of cynicism on Jay McInerney's part.
Yeah.
Is she comes into the hotel room, the bellhop helps her in there, and she says, should we keep pretending to be discreet that you help me into this room every week, but I'm not coming back?
Yes.
And so she's, dressed in a slinky little black dress that was very popular in the 90s. And
it's like a blazer skirt combo.
Mm-hmm, blazer skirt combo. And she, takes off the blazer and sets it out and, gets the wrinkles out of it. And then she gets a call that her friends are downstairs. And so she says, come on up.
Yeah. So we quickly got Sasha in her underwear.
Got Sasha in her underwear.
And Sasha's is played by Deborah Unger, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Who, Scorpio in the Star Wars video games.
Oh, was she?
Yeah.
I know that she was in Highlander 3, The Final Dimension.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I know Silent Hill, and she also played Ava Gardner in HBO's The Rat Pack.
That's right, she did. She was also in Crash, David Cronenberg's Crash.
Okay.
Which is one of the few movies I've ever been to where I saw people get up and walk out.
That bad?
No,
or just that intense. I mean,
it was that homosexual. This was an NC-17 movie.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
I saw it opening night, and there were a bunch of bros in the theater.
Oh,
okay,
there you go.
Like, kind of whooping it up whenever there was sex on screen, because this movie starts out. I think it's maybe 3 minutes into it when we first see boobs.
Okay, I've never seen this movie, so
it's about people who have sexual fetishes that surround car crashes.
Okay.
So, you have somebody who the opening scene is Holly Hunter gets in a car crash, and as she tries to take her seatbelt off, she pulls her jacket open and you see her breasts.
Okay.
So it starts out very sexual, and it's David Cronenberg, so it's very sexual in nature.
So essentially car wreck porn.
It's exactly what it is, car wreck porn.
Yeah.
So this whole time, these bros in the theater are like kind of whooping it up anytime women are naked or women are having sex, or anytime a man and a woman are having sex or something like that. And there is a scene where I believe, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, it's a homosexual love scene between James Spader and Elias Koteas.
Okay.
And these bros got silent and got up and just walked out single file. They could not.
Really?
They could not handle the gay sex. Yeah, it was. And we just laughed. We were like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see I see you. You love the sex, but you can't.
Probably hit a little too close to home for some of them.
Yeah, probably a little too close to home for some of them. A little bit too
Yeah.
closeted or something. I don't know, but they could not handle the homosexual love scenes, and so we were like, pretty much the rest of us in the theater were there because we were Cronenberg fans.
Yeah.
And we were all sort of like, yeah, good riddance, children. But yeah, she was in Crash, and I believe her character in Crash might have actually been somebody with a fake limb. I could be wrong. It's been a long time since I've seen this movie.
Okay.
So that's mainly where I know her from, is
Okay.
from that movie. But so her friends come up to see her. One of whom is played by Mariska Hargitay.
Yes, of Law and Order Special Victims Unit fame.
Of Law and Order
Which my
Special
wife Lori is completely addicted to, by the way.
Because it's excellent. It's fantastic. She is one of our two stars of this episode who comes from a very famous family.
Yes.
Mariska Hargitay
is the daughter of
bodybuilder Mickey Hargitay and his wife, who you may have heard of, Jane Mansfield.
Yes.
Okay. So, do not ask her if she remembers the car accident. She was in the car the night that her mother had the car accident that killed her.
Oh, that's sad.
She and one of her siblings were asleep in the back seat. They have no memory of the car accident, but she was, she was like 3 years old, I think. And she and, I want to say her two brothers were in the car in the back seat with her mother, and they were just asleep, and the impact did not hurt them, and because they were sleeping, they had no memory of it.
Okay.
Also,
probably for the best.
Yeah, it is for the best. Also, it is a legend. It's an urban legend that Jane Mansfield was decapitated in that accident. She was not decapitated. Jane Mansfield was famous for wearing big blonde wigs, and one of the wigs flew off.
Okay. That's where that came from.
That's where that came from. But yeah, she, after her mother was killed in the car accident, she went to go live with her father, who, like I said, was bodybuilder Mickey Hargitay.
Yep.
It's kind of a cute story how Jane Mansfield and Mickey Hargitay met each other. I want to say it was in Vegas, but Jane Mansfield went to see a show where Mickey Hargitay was sort of on display as one of the bodybuilders, and he was. Oh, I'm sorry. He was in the Mae West. He was in Mae West's burlesque show.
Okay.
And Mae West's show was just a bunch of beefcake guys, like dancing and posing behind her while
really? Interesting.
While she sang.
So like eye candy for behind her. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, male eye candy. So it was a Mae West show, and Jane Mansfield said, it was like sort of like a dinner theater type thing, and she says, "I'll have a steak and the one on the left," when she saw me. So it's kind of a cute story.
Like she's ordering off the menu. That's funny.
Mm-hmm. Yep. She's they weren't married terribly long, but I think that's a cute story.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mariska Hargitay is one of the friends, and
Tina. She put her character's name is Tina.
She's Tina.
And then Chelsea Feel plays Diane.
Which
is a very interesting name for Twin Peaks fans.
It is an interesting name for Twin Peaks fans. So they come in, they've been shopping. Diane's been looking for brass and things, and they bring Sasha a book, which, like I said, I'm wondering what this book is supposed to say about these women.
It's art and decadence from Nefertiti to Emily Dickinson.
The book is actually titled Sexual Persona, Art and Decadence from Nefertiti.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's by an author named Camille Paglia.
Okay.
Who is an extremely controversial figure in feminist writing.
Okay.
She's a very non-traditional feminist. A lot of people don't like her because they think she's a bit of a shamer, because a lot of her mentality is about women also having a certain responsibility for themselves.
Right.
So a lot of people see that as slut shaming, clothing shaming, things like that. You know, she's one of the first people to say women should not be validating fraternities by going to frat parties.
Got it.
She doesn't say you deserve to get raped if you go to a frat party, but what she does say are things like, you shouldn't be surprised if you get raped at a frat party.
Okay, that's a very interesting way of phrasing it.
It is. So she's extremely controversial.
Yeah.
And
that's almost like saying, like, you're asking for it if you go to this frat party.
Exactly. Because it's not as, she does that thing where she compares it to wearing a really flashy watch in a neighborhood that is famous for muggings.
Okay.
That it's still illegal, but
if you do that, you're asking for it.
Not you're asking for it, but you shouldn't be surprised when it happens.
Okay.
It's that kind of
That's the distinction.
Yeah, and she can be very blunt. A lot of people they don't like her because she seems to not really have a lot of sympathy.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of traditional feminists really can't stand her because they do think that she is a shamer and a blamer. So, the reason I know all this is because I've read this book.
Okay.
So, when I saw the book, I was like, I wonder what they're trying to say with this.
So since you've read the book, mm-hmm. and you know the general gist of it, mm-hmm. so what do you think they were trying to, tell Sasha for? Like what were they trying to communicate to Sasha with this book?
I think it's more that Jane McInerney is trying to say that these are women who think they are liberated and independent feminists, but they don't get it.
Okay.
I think maybe the women that buy the book for Sasha
mm-hmm.
are trying to say to her, essentially, you repeat the same action and expect a different reaction is a sign of madness.
Yes.
So I think it's more about...
the definition of madness, of course, being that you do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. Yeah.
So I think it's part of that, but I feel like it's more of a commentary on these characters because, like I said, Camille Paglia does not have a particularly good reputation amongst the more compassionate feminist voices.
Okay.
She's very, this is a terrible world we live in, and you need to know that. That's kind of her thing. Okay. She's very no nonsense and very, like I said, she's been known, especially when it comes to issues of rape, she's been known to be very, very, skirting the line of victim blaming.
Yeah.
So yeah, very controversial. Even back in the 90s, she was very controversial.
Interesting.
So,
well, we're getting heavy stuff here in this episode, aren't we?
Thanks, Jane McInerney. But yeah, that book is like a textbook. It is a dense read. Really? So, it's a lot to unpack.
Right.
I don't think I still have it. It's just,
so I'm not sure I can expect someone like Sasha to be into that kind of thing, right?
Probably Yeah. I was a women's studies major in college, so I don't know if I still have that book, but I definitely read it in college. So,
Okay.
um, so yeah, they just sort of talk about men and what they want out of life, and why she's going to break up with Robert, because he's also very superficial too. She talks about how he's really proud of his hair,
Mm-hmm.
and he's sleeping around with you know almost underage starlets because he's out in Hollywood because he's some sort of filmmaker. I don't know if he's a
Yeah.
director or producer or what his deal is, but he's one of those sort of like, I work in movies, I make a lot of money, I'm entitled, I get whatever I want type of guys. So she's going to essentially tell him that they always fight and he's not going to commit to her, so they should break up.
Yeah.
She's found another guy from Houston who wants to introduce her to his mother and marry her and have children, but
Bum, 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 bum.
yeah, he ran
Yeah.
off with another woman that he met in Aspen. They ran off to Reno and got married over that weekend.
Right.
So she really doesn't have that other guy anymore. So now she's thinking, oh, well, maybe I should just keep Robert around for a while because my alimony is going to run out in 2 years and maybe I can find another gravy train.
Right. Which is horrible, right? That
Right.
all she's thinking is like, oh, like I was really in love with this guy, but he apparently just, wasn't into her as much as
Mm-hmm.
she thought and ran off and married somebody else. So now she's going to use Robert as the fallback plan.
Robert's the fallback plan. Right, exactly. So
Even though she's talking about wanting to kick him to the curb because doesn't want to commit.
he doesn't want to commit and they always fight. And so
Yeah.
Robert shows up a little bit earlier than expected.
Yeah.
Right after the reveal has happened that Diane and Robert used to go out with each other. So Diane opens the door. There's Robert.
You mean
and
Tina?
It's very
Tina
like,
and Robert.
oh, hey, there's.
Tina and Robert used to go
Oh,
out.
yeah, Tina. No, it was Diane.
No, it was Tina because he talks about,
Oh,
they
you're
go
right.
through this
You're
whole
right.
thing about like, hey, sorry about San Jose. And,
Oh, I
like,
was just going to apologize to you.
they both tried to apologize to each other and they're like, well, like, essentially they were trying to dump each other. And
Right.
so,
It's like,
and Robert's just like, oh, I didn't realize you were trying to dump me. I feel like kind of an
yeah,
idiot.
I didn't dump you. You dumped me kind of a thing. So,
Yeah.
so they're sort of like, no hard feelings, water under the bridge because, Tina's fine with having her career and buying her, early American brassware.
Yeah. And she's still trying to flirt with him too, by the way, Tina is.
And so is Diane. Diane is like, here's my new number and it's listed, wink,
Yeah.
wink, nice hair, wink, wink.
Yeah, supposedly she never met him before. But yeah, she looks up, like, there's this one moment where she's picking up this broken glass from this champagne glass that Sasha, in a fit of anger, threw across the room, right?
When she found out that the guy from Houston had already gotten married, she just threw the glass across the room.
Yeah,
I can't say I blame her. That would be
Diane is like
difficult.
down there picking it up, and then she kind of looks up and sees Robert. She's like, "Hey," and then then she's talking about like, "Hey, I've got this new number. It's listed, and call me."
Yeah.
And even when Robert escorts, like, for whatever reason he decides to do this, escorts Tina out the door, he's still going, hey, you're still staying at this one place, right?
Yeah. So
intending to call her later, probably to hook up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So Sasha is not as in control of this situation as she thinks.
No.
So she is having she's a little bit upset about everything that's going on. First, she wants her girlfriends to stay while he was there because she wasn't quite ready to do this. And then when she realizes that they're all
well, she planned that they're going through this whole motion because they planned out how Sasha was going to dump Robert, right?
Right.
And they practice it, they rehearse it, for crying out loud, with Tina acting as Robert there for a little while. And then when Robert actually shows up, Sasha is hesitant about it.
Right. Exactly. So she's not quite sure what to do, but then she does kick her girlfriends out, and now she's going to have the conversation with Robert But then Robert says exactly to her what they practiced she was going to say to Robert. He
Right.
says, we fight all the time and I'm not ready to commit to you and I'm sure you're sick of waiting for that. So let's just end this.
Yes. And she's like, wait a minute, you can't do this to me, even though I was going to do it to you.
So she picks up a fireplace poker and whacks him in the back of the head.
Well, first, though, they start arguing.
They start arguing.
And Sasha,
and she's like,
Sasha, in this fit of insecurity, I'm sorry, but
it's really sad. It's really way too desperate, I think.
Well, it is because, like for someone who was like not 5 seconds ago ready to like kick Robert out to the curb, she starts falling back in these insecurities. Like, is it because I'm too old, or whatever it is, I can change it. I can be who you want me to be. In this very desperate
Is it
move.
My boobs? Are they not big enough? But they're all real, which is more than I can say for your 19-year-old starlets.
Yeah, and then he says, no, the boobs are fine, but do you want to know? Do you really want to know? And here's where things escalate. Is that
this is where it gets kind of good.
He says,
and it's funny too. This is where a lot of the humor is.
He says, the reason I'm doing this is because you are not a nice person.
And when you think about how much of a jerk Robert is,
right? That says
for him
something.
to say that to her, that's really mean.
Yeah, he's like, you're a bitch. You got it. You want me to spell this out for you? You're not nice. And
B as in bad, I as in egomaniac,
which made me laugh.
Hilarious.
Which is a great. Yes. It's very clever because so that you're all about yourself, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I as in egomaniac.
T as in terrorist, and C as in, and he trails off.
He says C as in K.
Like he gets the first syllable out, and then he catches himself, and he's like, they take a pause, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this really sets Sasha off because the next thing you know, she's like, he's ready to like, okay, that's it, I'm out of here. And, Sasha tells him that like, you're not walking out on me. And he says, oh yeah, well watch me. And he starts heading out the door. And that's when she whacks him with the fireplace poker that Tina forgot to take with her when she left.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, she that's where she gets the fire poker. I was like, what's the fireplace? Yeah, you're right, Tina. It's brass.
That was the brass thing she was showing off.
Yes, that's right. I forgot about that.
But she left it in the bed because Sasha had hurried them out because Tina was trying to flirt with Robert, talking about wanting to toast to old times.
Yeah.
And she's like, "That's it. You guys are out of here."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with friends like that, who needs enemies, right?
Well, exactly. It just shows that, again, like, they don't know each other. And, all their relationships are superficial, even their friendships.
Right.
So they quickly turn on each other when something comes up like that, and they realize that, they're so-and-so is suddenly interested in my guy that I supposedly don't even want.
And so, yeah, it's kind of sad what happens with Sasha because she doesn't want this guy until he doesn't want her.
Yeah.
Then she's like, just tell me what to do and I will change. I'll be different. I'll do whatever you want. And it's like the desperation thing is just so sad because he's so horrible. He's such a bad person. I mean,
yes,
she's a bad person too, but it's like, out of all the people to beg to be with you, it would not be Griffin Dunne. Griffin Dunne, who, by the way, is playing Robert.
Right. You want to talk about Griffin Dunne for a minute?
Yeah, he's also from an extremely famous family. His father is the society and crime writer Dominic Dunne.
Okay.
So I don't know if you ever read Vanity Fair or anything like that.
No, not normally in my repertoire, but
yeah, he's been
none of my bathroom stand.
Yeah, he's definitely been in like New York journalism scenes for a long time. His sister-in-law is Joan Didion, the novelist.
Right.
And he even had a TV show for a while. He had a true crime show called Dominic Dunne's Power, Privilege, and Justice.
Okay.
Where it was basically like the murder stories of the elite and well-to-do socialites.
Okay.
Of New York or of Connecticut, just that sort of like.
So that was this like a higher end version of A.J. Benz's True Hollywood Crime Stories, or?
Kind of, but it was more like the tri-state area elite, like that socialite where, like
that
Connecticut.
Circle.
Yeah, Connecticut, New England, New York, that kind of thing, which he was a part of.
Okay.
Being from New York and being a journalist and coming from a family of writers. He's from Connecticut. The family's from Connecticut. His older brother was John Dunne, another writer. He's the one that married Joan Didion.
Okay.
They, they wrote for the Saturday Evening Post together. I mean, they're very much like the upper echelon of like New York writer type stuff.
Right.
Like if there was a group of people
in the literary circles, that kind of thing,
in like the 1950s, like Jay McInerney, Bret Easton Ellis, and Tammin Janowitz were in the 1950s, it would be Dominic Dunne and those people.
Got it.
So he's also done some film production and things like that. So yeah, Dominic Dunne. Trying to think of. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Addicted to Love with Meg Ryan and
no.
Matthew Broderick.
No, but
excellent movie.
I know of it, but I haven't seen it.
But it is directed by Griffin Dunne, and his father has a cameo in it as a restaurant critic.
Okay.
So,
do you want to talk about where we know Griffin Dunne from?
Well, I know Griffin Dunne from a lot of things. Probably the best thing he's in, and I'll talk about what we know him from the best in that what you and I know him from the most, but probably the best thing Griffin Dunne's ever been in is a movie called After Hours.
Okay.
Which I want to say is directed by Martin Scorsese.
That sounds right. Yeah.
1985. Yeah, directed by Martin Scorsese, and it's written by a guy named Joseph Minion, who also wrote a movie called Motorama, which came out in like 91, that has tons of cameos in it, including Jack Nance.
Really?
Yeah. It's like,
so we actually have a Twin Peaks connection. Interesting.
Yeah. I actually didn't see this movie until like last year. My friend, one of my friend Matt's favorite movies.
Okay.
And he loaned it to me, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, I freaking love this movie. And how did I Jack Nance movie from 1991? So, that's probably the best thing I think Griffin Dunne's ever been in.
Okay.
Also it's a really good movie. It's about this guy who essentially works as a computer programmer or data entry guy. At night after he goes to work, he goes out to a cafe and just meets all kinds of crazy people. He's out all night long. All kinds of crazy things happen to him. And then eventually he just shows back up in front of his office and goes back about his life again.
Okay. So it's his whole secret life outside the office.
It's not even a secret life. It's just this night goes crazy.
Okay.
I mean, and there's tons of people in this, like Rosanna Arquette, Terry Garr, Linda Fiorentino, John Hurd, Cheech from Cheech and Chong. Like it's a fantastic movie. I highly, highly recommend it. Also, if you are a Madonna fan, and you probably are a Madonna fan, if you're one of the 8 people who has seen the movie Who's That Girl?
Right.
Griffin Dunne is in that. But Griffin Dunne plays David in An American Werewolf in London. And that's where...
I thought he played Jack Goodman. I thought he played Jack Goodman.
He does. He plays Jack. I'm so sorry. No, I'm thinking He's always saying, you
I was
don't
like,
have
you're
to say.
freaking me out. I'm like, wait a minute.
No, I'm wrong. I'm losing my mind. Yes, he is Jack Goodman from American Werewolf in London. He's the one who does get killed at the very beginning and the one who's haunting David throughout the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And he benefits from fantastic Rick Baker makeup throughout the movie. He just sort of rots. And then the last time you see him, it's actually not Griffin Dunne. It's actually a puppet.
Right. Because his corpse has decayed so much. Yeah.
His corpse is rotting so much. Yeah. The scene where they meet up in the porno theater.
Yes. Iconic, by the
That's
way.
not iconic, but it's actually not Griffin Dunne. It's a puppet at that point. It's an animatronic puppet.
Right.
Also in that scene, the guy that he kills in the subway, that David kills in the subway.
Right.
Is the same actor who plays Bib Fortuna in Return of the Jedi.
Interesting. Nice connection to Star Wars. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we also know him from playing Tommy Kelly.
Because if I don't get laid, I'm going to die.
Yeah, we also know him for playing Tommy Kelly and Johnny Dangerously. Do you know your last name is an adverb?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite lines from that movie.
I've tried going to Bad Girls, but for a clean-cut kid like me, there's just no dice. How do you get laid in 1930?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
He was also in the movie Practical Magic with Sandra Bullock. Mm-hmm. He was on the TV series Alias, which I'm a huge fan of.
He was on Alias.
And also Amazing Stories.
Amazing Stories. He's also in Amazon Women on the Moon.
Which we talked about.
Yeah, where he's he loses Peter Horton and Michelle Pfeiffer's baby after they have it. He's their obstetrician and he loses the baby. He's in the movie My Girl. He plays the English teacher that Veda has a crush on.
Okay.
And who she takes his night school class for creative writing that's meant for adults.
That's funny.
That's him. And but yeah, he's if you've never seen After Hours, I highly recommend it.
I'm getting distracted by your husband Chris lurking in the background.
Was he lurking? Oh, okay. Oh, it must be time to feed the cat.
There you go.
So
I was trying to figure out what he's doing because he's all hunched over in the hallway.
Yeah, he's trying to make sure the cats eat what they're supposed to eat. But he was also in the Oscar-winning Dallas Buyers Club. He's one of the.
Okay.
He's one of the he's the doctor in like Mexico or South America or something like that. I forget. He's real scraggly.
Okay, I've never seen that movie, but is that
that's all really, really good.
Was it Matthew McConaughey in that movie? That's what
Matthew McConaughey and Jared Leto both won Oscars for that movie.
That's where, okay. Now I know the movie you're talking about.
Yeah, Jared Leto does a fantastic job in that. So, yeah, I highly recommend those things. But, yeah. So, yeah, American Werewolf in London, After Hours, and Johnny Dangerously, my favorite Griffin Dunne movies.
There you go. Yeah.
So we get to the point where she hits him on the back of the head.
Yes.
And here's when our maid decides to come back in. The maid had come in earlier bringing in champagne, and Sasha's not a fan of the maid because when she was opening the champagne, the cork went awry and almost hit Sasha right in the eyeball.
Yeah, and Sasha was like, "You're trying to blind me." You did
that on purpose. I want to talk to the manager. The service in this hotel is terrible.
She goes full Karen and calls up the manager.
Mm-hmm. Calls up the manager, yeah, which,
can't find the manager, but leaves a message like, hey, send the manager up here.
Send the manager up to this room. So the maid knocks on the door to clean the room. No one answers, so she walks in and she sees...
She unlocks it because, nobody answers.
Yeah. She unlocks the door. She sees Sasha leaning over Robert's bleeding body.
Yes. She's trying to, drag it out. Like, she's struggling with it.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to move
and she's covered in blood, and so the maid gasps, and Sasha says, "Do you know what he called me?"
And
the maid says, "The C word." Well, not really, but he almost did.
Yeah, he was going to.
He was going to. Yeah. The maid actually says the C word. She actually says it.
But I think it was pretty funny because the maid, I think, was saying it more like, of course he called you the C word because you were acting like that toward me.
Because
So,
you are.
because you are, exactly.
So,
You know, she has this kind of like duh look on her face. Yeah,
well, what else would he do?
right.
You
Right,
know?
exactly.
So,
So like, yeah, you know, the maid goes over to Robert, who's like groaning by this point now, suddenly. So it's like, okay,
he's still alive. She
he's
didn't
still,
kill him.
yeah, he's not dead. He's merely resting. You feel like he could go for a walk.
Oh, don't be such a baby.
I'm feeling better.
Shut up. You're going to be stone dead in a minute.
I feel fine. I feel happy. I feel
Could you help me
thud.
out here, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't want to go on the cart.
So the maid kind of
Might
takes
go for a walk.
the maid kind of takes charge of the situation. She's like, "Call the doctor. Go down for the doctor." And Sasha actually calls for the doctor. And like she goes to get a maid, gives the maid a cloth to address the bleeding. And here's where things get, you know, this conversation takes a very unexpected turn, I think.
Right. Yeah.
Because Sasha, you know, she says, you know, how could you say that I'm not a nice person? And
That
you know,
really hurt my feelings.
that was so incredibly cruel of you. You know, the woman that again, you know, hit Robert over the head with a fire poker is now telling him this.
Seriously.
Right? She's like, you know how I feel about that word.
Mm-hmm.
So Robert, who's like bleeding out and kind of weakly says, well, like, if I said anything that hurt your feelings, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and it's like almost like he's got Stockholm syndrome now. Like he's like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm supposed to do this. Like I don't know if I should leave her because I might just get murdered if I do.
Right. And they talk about like, well, you know, neither of them wants to fight anymore. And then in a great moment, Sasha looks at the maid and is like, do you mind? We're having a private conversation here.
We're having a private conversation here. Like so now they're just talking like it's
like nothing happened.
Like nothing happened. Like everything's fine. Like this is normal. Like this is what people do.
Yeah. We know that they fight. So
yeah.
apparently they fight and make up. So it almost feels like they're just going through that again here, even though he's
and they say
like,
I don't want to fight anymore. I don't either. Like they're gonna try and make this work, but I can't tell if like did she hit him over the head to the point where he wants to be with her, or is he scared of her? I cannot tell. Honestly.
Well, it's kind of left open there, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Left open in interpretation because either like she knocks some sense into him, or like you said, he's got Stockholm syndrome now.
Right, or is he just scared of her? That's the thing I don't know.
Or is just this part of their pattern?
That's what I'm wondering. If it is part, like, do they?
I think it's part of their pattern.
Yeah, like, do they fight like this all the time?
Yeah, but I mean,
or
is it always this like, you know, do they always get gravely injured here or what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how does this work?
So,
like, does somebody always hit somebody over the back of the freaking head?
Oh, the other part I loved was like, after Sasha tells the maid to leave, Robert reaches into his pocket and pulls out this big wad of cash to tip her.
Yeah.
He palms her the tip. And then Sasha's just like, would you just leave?
Just go. This is not, we're having a private conversation. Just go.
And then Sasha
he's like,
go ahead.
And he's like, basically acting like, you know, go ahead and go and let's pretend like this never happened. It's so bizarre.
It is very bizarre because Sasha's wondering like, well, do we have any Tylenol?
Yeah, let's see if we've got some Tylenol.
And then she's like, you know, what time's your screening? Like, this is this is normal for them, apparently.
Yeah, seriously.
And then she's like, I need to call Peggy, whoever Peggy is. And then they start making out. So like here he is with a head wound, and they start making out.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's fine.
Yeah, everything's fine. They're making out. with a head wound, and he's got his arms around her, and he's bleeding all over her, and God knows if he's going to survive this blow to the head or not. I don't know. It's very, very ridiculous.
Yeah. But it's definitely like I did not expect the way this story was going to turn out at all.
Yeah, this one is definitely the dark comedy where it ends in a very bizarre way. And I said before, it reminds me of the movie I Love You to Death. Which, do you remember this one, Charles?
Who's in it?
Okay, this one has Tracy Ullman is married to Kevin Kline.
No, I've not seen this
movie.
And
it's like he plays this sort of like overstated Italian stereotype. Like they run like an Italian restaurant pizza joint.
Okay.
Stuff like that. And he's been married to Tracy Ullman for a long time. But he goes out all the time and has constant affairs on her. Like he's kind of a womanizer.
He's a cad.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's a bit of a cat, right? Yeah. One of the people he actually has an affair with, I believe, is Phoebe Cates, who is his actual wife in real life. So Tracy Ullman's character decides that she is going to kill him because she doesn't want him to leave her and then just have fun running the pizza parlor and getting any woman he wants.
Yeah.
So she doesn't want to leave him, but what she does want is for him to
change his ways.
I don't want to say suffer, but yeah, she just wants him to be punished.
Okay.
Sort of for what he did. So she's going to kill him.
Okay.
So they try all of these things. Like what she winds up doing is she makes like spaghetti with a bunch of sleeping pills, but that winds up just knocking him out to the point where when she shoots him, it slows the bleeding, and that's what makes him survive and stuff. And she has this whole group of idiots trying to help her, including an employee at the pizza parlor played by River Phoenix, who is in love with Tracy Ullman, so he's going to do anything for her. His idiot friends, who are Keanu Reeves and William Hurt. And it's just this ridiculous comedy of errors to try and like, okay, what the hell is going on with this? But what happens is at the end of the story, when they figure out what happens. Like a cop figures out what happens, and they wind up arresting her and her mother and Keanu Reeves and just all of these idiots that have tried to help her kill her husband.
Right.
Except he does not want to press charges because he says that this woman loves me so much that she'd rather see me dead than with another woman. How can I leave that?
Okay.
He's like, this is going to be the most loyal woman a man has ever had, and
interesting rationalization, but okay, I'll go with it. It's a comedy,
which is why this movie is reminding me.
I can see that. I can see why that reminded you.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Okay.
Like I said, he's a little more genuine about it. I believe the Kevin Kline character a little bit more than I believe the Robert character.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Interesting.
Yeah. So
I love your summaries, by the way.
Thank you very much.
They're always entertaining.
So just trying to do it quickly. I don't want to be all like
bogged down in it.
It starts out in a pizza parlor, and it, I don't want to, but that's essentially what happens.
Right.
So. Yep.
All right.
So that's what we. So that's why it kind of reminded me of that, because at the end he's sort of like, "Yeah, let's never fight again, honey," and I'm like, "What is going on?"
Yeah, it's.
So.
I have to think it's part of their pattern.
Yeah, you would think so.
Because they made a point of addressing like we always fight.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just and. And they've, she makes a point of saying, well, I hate that word. So that means he's used that word before, probably.
He's called her that before.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the thing that we're forgetting here, is that he has called her this before. And I can't say that I blame her for being mad, but I don't know if I'd hit him in the back of the head, because it's legal to call somebody the C word.
Right.
You shouldn't do it very often.
No.
But it is legal. Like, I don't use it.
You're not physically injuring somebody.
I'm not and when I do use it, I wish I could.
Yeah.
Physically for somebody.
Right.
So the last time, you want to know the last time I used the
Which
C
is
word?
why I never use that word, by the way.
Well, it's you don't quite get to.
As a guy, I've learned I've learned the personal safety of not using that word.
That's the thing, is that you kind of have to, you've really got to be sure that whoever you're saying it about and to, the person you're saying it to, agrees with you about who you're saying it about. So the last time I used that word, and it was recently.
Right.
It was when I found out about that woman who was on her Etsy store selling like stars of David. Okay. For people who are not vaccinated, because she's saying they're being persecuted in the same way.
Oh my
God. That is somebody
right.
who qualifies as the C word.
Right. Well, knowing you and knowing how passionate you are about things like that,
well,
I could see you letting that one fly. Yes.
Well, it's also, you don't compare having to wear a mask at the grocery to being systematically murdered because you're a Jew.
Right.
You don't do it. That's not what you do.
Yes.
That is a terrible, terrible thing to do. It's a terrible thing to even pretend like it's even the same thing. And if you
can't equate those things.
If you even insinuate it, you are the C word. I'm sorry.
Right.
There
you go.
It's just.
So as far as you're concerned, there are justifiable circumstances for using that word.
Oh, but it's big guns. It's very big guns.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You really, really have to.
You have to pick your moment.
Yeah, exactly. You really, really, really have to do a major, what's the word I'm looking for?
Criteria?
Yeah, you got to really review it.
Yeah.
You really, really got to review it.
You got to think it through.
Yeah, there's a certain criteria for it, and if you are...
Which is weird, because you're usually in the heat of the moment when you use that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, usually are in the heat of the moment when you use it. But if you are, if you hear about somebody who is referring to the fact that they have to wear a mask at the grocery store as being as bad as being systematically murdered by Hitler,
yeah,
then that's somebody you're allowed to call the C word.
There you go. Okay, good to know.
Somebody else who you would be allowed to call the C word is any one of the cops that killed Breonna Taylor.
Okay.
They qualify.
Even the male cops?
Oh, even the male cops.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely the male cops. For sure.
All
yeah.
Right.
They all qualify, Charles.
So this isn't gender specific then?
No, it doesn't have to be gender specific at all.
Okay.
No,
good to know. Well, equality. That's good. All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some people just are. Some people just are. And so, yeah. But
I love that we've talked 5 minutes of dancing around this word. This is hilarious to me.
Like I said, it's like when I was a kid.
Yeah.
My mother taught me that you shouldn't use the word hate unless you really mean it about somebody, because it's a very strong word. And it doesn't just mean you don't like something. It means it's very strong. And if you say it about someone or about something,
right,
it's very hurtful, and it's supposed to be very cutting. Well, I didn't listen to my mom. I would walk around saying like, oh my God, I hate
this, hate that.
You know, I hate oysters or,
right.
you know, whatever, just what, you know, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So now instead of I hate something, something's the C word. Like that's when I
okay. So
when I should be using the term hate, it's when I'm talking about the C word.
All right. So you've escalated this.
I escalated it. Yeah. And same thing with the F word. My mom told me the same thing. She's like, it's not going to mean what it, you know, cause I say, you know,
right.
I say the F word when I'm ordering a coffee. Like, anybody out there who's listened to Drunk Cinema is aware that I throw around the F word like it's water. Okay.
Right. And that's one of the things I enjoy so much because personally, like, you know, I really appreciate a woman who knows how to swear emphatically.
I will say that I am emphatic. Yes. Have you ever heard me call somebody the C word?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, and it's emphatic.
It's usually on Facebook, but
but so you've never actually heard me say it? Like you've never heard
No,
my
I think I have. I think I have.
Okay.
I think I have. I think
and
I can't remember the specific instance, but I'm pretty sure I have. So
it was probably something to do with
see I'm Irish, so I have
January 6th.
I have no I have no issues with swearing. You know, like I feel that, you know, the F word is the most versatile word in the English language.
It's incredibly versatile.
It can be a noun, it could be an adjective, you know, it could be it
can be a verb,
you know, an interjection or just a statement. It's a
interrogative.
Interrogative. That's the word. Yeah, exactly.
Interrogative, informative, interjection. All of those I terms.
You name it. It can be. It's the most versatile word, I think, in the English language. Mm-hmm. So consequently, you know, like I have no problem with it at all.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons why I talked Rob Southgate into letting us use that word on Drunk Cinema because, you know, as you brought up the great point, you know, when alcohol is involved, we're probably going to be using that word.
Yeah, you just say it.
And I don't want to feel like I have to bleep every other word. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
you don't want to feel censored.
Sometimes you need a good F word because it's, you know, nothing is better.
Nothing is better. I think
nothing gets the point across with a passion than the F word sometimes.
The F word kept me off of the evening news on tax night one time.
Really?
Yeah, because I had done my taxes, and when I owe money, I send that check to the IRS on a slow boat to China.
Got it.
So
with the F word involved, yes.
Not necessarily with the F word involved, but I don't know if anybody out there is familiar with the song "Slow Boat to China."
Yeah.
It's basically, I'm going to get you on a slow boat to China all to myself alone, which means we're going to travel a long time together in our cabin alone. At
a very slow pace. Yes.
And romance is going to ensue. So that's why I say slow boat to China.
Right.
I don't want it to sound like a racist thing. It's just far away, slowly. That's the song. So anyway.
It's an old euphemism. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So if I owe them money, I might do my taxes early, but I don't mail the check until the night it's due, right?
Right.
So we had gone to the main post office.
You drag it out as long as possible. Yes.
Mm-hmm, which used to be open until midnight. You could drop things off at midnight, and I think I'd gotten there at maybe like 9:30 or something.
Yeah.
And there was Channel 6 was there, and there was somebody who said, there was a guy that said, read this notice before you put your check in the mailbox, you know, because I think they were trying to get reaction shots.
Yes. And
so it basically said, we have changed our hours, and the last pickup time at this post office location is 9 p.m. And like I said, it was like 9:15, 9:30.
Yeah.
And I just went, oh, F me. Like, and that kept me off the news from being one of those. Like I said, the taxes were done. I just didn't mail them until the last second. I had to drive out to the airport because they were open till like 11 or 10 or something like that. So I just
so you did get it through. Just you had to go through.
In.
You had to go through the hassle of.
No, I didn't have to file an extension or anything stupid like that. So, but yeah, I just was like, oh, F me.
That's a great story. I like that story.
So yeah, I didn't get on the news because of the F word. But yeah, the C word, you only bring that on very special occasions, and it is a particularly egregious person.
Right.
Like Derek Chauvin, you could call.
There you go.
You know, it's Derek Chauvin levels of terrible people.
Donald Trump.
Oh man, it's almost too warm and inviting for Donald Trump.
It's too good for Donald Trump, is what you're saying.
It's too good for Donald Trump. Yeah. What's that crazy woman with the Trump 1 masks in the Senate? What's her name?
Oh, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah.
Yeah,
she's one.
Okay. All right.
Definitely, yeah. So, but yeah, like I said, the last time I used it was when I heard that story about that woman who had the Stars of David on her Etsy shop to basically say this is persecution that we have to wear.
Yeah.
That we have to wear masks if we're unvaccinated.
That is a C word worthy move. I will grant you that. Yes.
That is C worthy.
That's C worthy. That's a great pun. I love that. C worthy. I'm gonna have to remember that. That's perfect. I
can't take full credit for that because you mentioned earlier before we were recording the TV show Arrested Development.
Yes.
They came up with that? Well, their family boat was called the C word. SEWARD, C word.
That's okay.
And often they would refer to the boat and then like the mother would show up. So I got C-worthy from C-word, which was an Arrested Development joke.
That's good. I like that C-worthy. That's funny. I'm going to file that away for later reference. All right.
Right. It's free for use for anyone.
Excellent. All right. So what's your rating for this episode?
I'm going to give this one a 7.
Okay.
Because Jay McInerney, because Griffin Dunne, and because dark humor, and because you don't see Camille Paglia referenced in pop culture very often. I think that was very interesting.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Anything special you want to give it?
7 out of 10 copies of Sexual Persona.
There you go. I will give it. I was a little more generous than you. I give it 7.5 out of 10. Fireplace Pokers of Almost Death.
Of Almost Death. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. You have to qualify that, right?
You have to, yeah.
All right. Now, we didn't get any Ghostwood mail, sadly. I know we've been off for a month, so it's understandable. But we'd love to hear from you.
We would love to hear from you. We know
I know people are listening, and I know everybody's, checking in and following us on Facebook and Twitter, which we really appreciate, by the way.
Yeah.
So, and I know we've been downloaded. We're actually getting close to our 50,000 download mark.
What? That's awesome.
Which is pretty awesome. Like our little Twin Peaks podcast has had that. So cheers
that's more than me setting up automatic downloads on my mom and dad's phones. So that makes me really happy.
There you go. So it's not just you downloading us 50,000 times. That's good.
Yeah, that's good to know. That's good to know.
See, if my mom knew about this podcast, she would probably do that. So.
Oh, but she would never listen to it.
No. She would never listen to it. She would just I just want to get your download numbers up.
I just want to get your numbers up, sweetie. Yeah, we could literally tell
Also, what's downloading?
Yeah. Charles's parents are kind of like the parents in those Progressive commercials. Was I hashtagging?
Yeah, pretty much. That's fair.
And we can literally say anything we want to about their.
My parents are in their 80s, okay? So I think
we can say anything we want to about their technical inabilities because they will never hear this podcast.
Yes, exactly.
Unless we literally sit them down and play it for them.
Right.
Yeah, my mother listens to Gold Standard.
Really?
Mm-hmm. She does not listen to this one because she does not get it.
Okay, well that makes sense. I mean, she understands movies, old movies, so that makes.
She understands movies, and I keep telling her she should listen to Elephant Man and Blue Velvet, and Straight Story. But she doesn't get Twin Peaks, so she can't. She doesn't know what we're talking about, so her mind wanders.
Okay, all right. Well, that's cool. Hopefully, she enjoys what you do on Gold Standard then.
She has a good time. Yeah. She has a good time with Gold Standard.
Good.
I keep trying to see if she'll listen to Drunk Cinema, but I don't think she knows the movies well enough, and I don't think she would sync them up
Yeah.
to watch them while we talk over them.
And you're cool live with your mom listening to you drunk on Drunk Cinema?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. No problems with
No,
that.
I get drunk with my parents every Christmas, Charles.
So they've seen it before. So
Yeah, I don't think you were there on my 40th birthday party, but
no, sadly.
my mom, my parents live next door.
Yeah.
And my dad gets really worn out easily, so my mom walked home with my dad, and then she came back and just opened the door and just said, "Mama needs a fireball." And all my friends who hadn't met her before, they were like, "Yes!" So
That's funny.
no, my mom and I have been drunk together several times.
Right.
Well,
the family that drinks together stays together. So there you go.
Yeah, I have no problem. Listen,
It's a nice little mother-daughter bonding moment.
Yeah.
That's good.
But as my mother likes to remind me, grown-ups drink.
Right.
So she's definitely not. She's not one of those moms that's like judgy that her kids drink when they're in their 40s, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I saw my mom drunk once, and I think it forever scarred me as a kid.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Would you like to hear a crazy story, Charles?
Sure.
I saved my mother's life one time.
Good.
She wasn't drunk, but she was sick.
Okay.
And she had some sort of food poisoning, and she threw up, and then I heard a thud.
Ooh.
She threw up and then passed out, and she had fallen backwards, and she was choking
on her vomit?
No, on her tongue.
Oh, on her tongue. Oh.
So I lifted her up, pulled her tongue out, woke her up, and saved her life. So.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Good for
you. So we're even. So we're even.
Okay.
So there's no like, I gave you life, you have to respect me thing.
Got it.
We just respect each other as people now.
As
it's a
equals,
linear respect.
Like,
yeah.
So she gave you life and you saved hers.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of evened the playing field.
Yeah, we're square. We're square. Now we're just
Excellent.
Linear human respect for each other.
So she can't lord that over you now.
Nope, she sure can't, because if she tries, she knows what I'm going to bring up.
Remember the time you almost died and I saved your life?
Remember the time you almost swallowed your tongue and you didn't because of me? Yeah. That's what I thought.
That's a good. That's a very strong card to play.
So when that kind of thing happens, you become an adult in your mother's eyes. It's no longer like, oh, did my baby get too drunk? What is wrong with you? Like,
right.
I had friends that would like hide alcohol from their parents when they were in their 30s, and I'm like, you're 30, you don't know my mom, that kind of stuff. And that's my parents never like that. So.
Right. My parents never cared. They just didn't want me to like show up hammered or something, when I was a kid.
Don't drive drunk, don't drink illegally, that stuff. Like,
as long as you don't drive, you don't kill anybody, hurt anybody.
Yeah, don't come home from
hurt yourself.
Right?
Get
don't
arrested.
Let the cops drive you home and show me your fake ID that you made to try and buy cheap beer. Yeah, stay out of trouble.
That kind of thing.
Stay out of trouble.
Stay out of trouble. All right. So, see, this is why everybody needs to write in, okay? So write to us, ghostwoodpodcast@gmail.com. It's ghostwoodpodcast@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Twitter @ghostwoodcast on Twitter. Or, hey, Ghostwood the Twin Peaks Podcast on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we've had a bunch of people like us on Twitter. We got like 400 followers there. Would obviously love to get up to 500. That'd be fantastic.
That'd be sweet.
That'd be fantastic. Or you could like us on Facebook, like I said. We definitely appreciate that as well. And Xan, otherwise, where can they find you when you're not talking Ghostwood or Drunk Cinema or Gold Standard?
Well, on the social media, I am Udinax19 on Twitter and Instagram. I haven't been posting a lot anywhere, frankly. I haven't been posting a lot.
Right.
Xan Sprouse on Facebook, and of course, I see the Ghostwood Facebook page and the Twitter and Instagram stuff that we do. And like I said, if you want to hear me get drunk and drop some F-bombs while talking about some of my favorite movies.
And you do.
And I do. Yeah, with Charles, and it's lovely. It's a great time. Head on over to Drug Cinema and catch us doing that, where we just did Clue with our friend Christine Peruski, and
And that
we're
was a
not
lot of fun.
that was a good time.
It
Yeah.
was a good time. You had a great time.
We're not quite sure what we're going to do next, so we can talk about that later.
No, we figured that out. You just
Did
don't
we figure
remember. Yeah, you don't remember it because you were hammered.
I was drunk?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, yeah. I can't.
We're gonna do
We can't.
Ghostbusters 1984
Oh, yeah.
because of our Facebook poll.
That's right. Yes. The Facebook poll. Yeah, we talked about this when I was drunk. I don't
Yes,
remember that.
I know you don't.
So, yeah, we're going to. This
Says a lot for our show, right?
tier represents the last of the petty cash. And then if you want to hear me sober talk about Oscar-winning movies with our friends DJ Nick and Rachel Friend, that's Gold Standard, the Oscars podcast, where we just got up to 1953, and we just did 1952, Greatest Show on Earth, and now we're going to do 1953 from here to eternity. So if you want to lie on the beach and make out with us.
Yeah. Now, is Rachel going to cringe because it's in black and white?
I don't think Rachel has a problem with black and white. I just think she likes the vibrancy of color more than anything else.
Okay, because I've heard, from what I understand, she really hates black and white and was very, very happy to finally get to color.
I think she prefers the vibrancy of it. She's not one of those people that,
right,
thinks Ted Turner is a genius for colorizing movies or anything like that. But she just likes the vibrancy of color because Rachel loves musicals, and musicals are very vibrant.
Yeah.
So
she likes it colorful, lively, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
All right. So everybody, please check Xan out on those because she's awesome, obviously, and we all need to support her in her endeavors.
Well, we all need to support DJ Nick for sure.
There you go. There you go. All right. As for me, of course, at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Instagram, Facebook, of course, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, and my blog of the geeky things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on Ghost with the Twin Peaks podcast, and all kinds of comic book sci-fi news of my other podcasts for Southgate Media, including the aforementioned Drunk Cinema with Xan, where, like I said, we're going to be discussing Ghostbusters 1984 next, and that's going to be a lot of fun because, yeah, as you probably, as fans of this podcast know, we like to quote that movie quite a bit.
Like every day.
Every day, practically. Every time we talk to each other, practically. It's one of our staple go-tos, so we're going to have a lot of fun with this one, especially since it's such a fun movie, period.
Such a couple of wavy lines.
I find her interesting because she sleeps above her covers. 4 feet above her covers.
Above her covers. She barks, she drools, she claws. It's not the girl, Peter, it's the building. All right. We're going to do the whole movie if we don't stop right now.
Nice doggy, nice poochie. Maybe I got a milk bone. See, this is what you're in for.
Speaking of Law and Order, I was watching Law and Order earlier, and the guy that plays the dean of the college, was one of the judges.
Interesting.
And every time I see him, I think to myself, "You are a poor scientist, right. Dr. Venkman."
Yes. Venkman, burn in hell.
Venkman, burn in hell. Yes.
All right, and then also. Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, they do with occasionally Jesse Jackson. Right now, he just got a surgery, but he returned recently.
He just got a surgery, and he just had a birthday. It's been a busy week for him.
It has. And he's done Next Stop Everywhere because...
I know!
He came back and, after being off for a while, and understandably, he needs to recover from said surgery, but he really wanted to talk the girl in the fireplace with us.
Well, who wouldn't?
Especially since my wife Lori joined us in her very first podcast appearance ever. 7 years in the making on this one. But we got one. Oh, wait, there's another Ghostbusters reference.
We got one! Yes, of course, they're serious.
Ghostbusters, what do you want?
Ghostbusters, let's quit better jobs than this. Ghostbusters, what do you want?
What do you want? Love Annie Potts in that movie.
Oh, Annie Potts is fantastic.
She's fantastic. And But yeah, Lori joined us, so it was Jesse, Lori, and I. Jesse kind of saying goodbye for now, at least, while he recovers. He steps back, but he's left the door open, like if there's something he really wants to talk about. Sounds like
Okay.
we could get him, but
We should.
we'll lure him in somehow.
You should make him come back for Dalek episodes.
I should, right? I'll say, hey, we're going to discuss this David Tennant era episode, and then I'll pull out like Plan of the Daleks from John Pertwee on him.
You're like, ha! I got you. I ambushed you.
Ambushed him. Yeah.
Yeah. Jesse's not a big Dalek fan.
No, he's not. And Lori expressed her displeasure for the classic era during our recording.
Oh, Charles.
You see what they have to work with here, Mr. Napier.
These kids today, man.
I know, right? These kids that, like in Lori's case, are 1 year older than me. But...
I was going to say, these kids that are older than us, what the hell?
Yeah, what the hell, right? What's wrong with that generation?
Lori's older than us. Jesse's older than us.
Yeah.
Kids.
Nobody understands.
Kids. They don't even know.
They don't know. But I hope everybody checks it out. And then coming up next week, we're going to be talking Black Orchid from the Peter Davison era.
Nice.
Which I'm going to be joined by Holly Mack from the Fires Fangirls podcast once again. And love talking with Holly. She's like probably one of the sweetest people that I know. So.
Well, Holly Mack.
Always good times. Always good times. And then last but certainly not least, the Fandom Zone podcast that I do with DJ Nick, where we just wrapped up Jupiter's Legacy. And apparently just in time because Netflix
I was going to say,
canceled.
didn't you just wrap up Jupiter's Legacy?
Yeah, we just wrapped it up. And then Netflix decided to wrap it up for because they decided to cancel it after one season.
Yep.
Because Netflix. And apparently it cost them like $200 million to make it. Although it didn't really come through in the production budget. I'm just saying. So I think somebody needs to look into that. I'm just speculating here. But good news is that we're going to take a week off and then we're going to come back to discuss Loki. One of the Marvel Cinematic Universe shows as we come into Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
And looking forward to this because Nick, I think, might take the wheel for these episodes.
Oh, okay.
I kind of opened it up for him and said, hey, look, I don't want to be like, if you want to drive the bus once in a while, feel free. And he's acting like, I might take you up on that. So
he likes to drive.
We might be, yeah, he does. So we might change up the format a little bit on that one. I hope everybody checks it out because I know Loki's a fan favorite character. The actor Tom Hiddleston playing him is equally a fan favorite. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about.
Yum.
Owen Wilson's in that series.
Mm-hmm.
So there could be good times, I think. That's all I got going on. Otherwise, next time on Ghostwood, Xan and I are going to be talking episode 99, one episode before our big 100th episode, where we're going to discuss Blackout, the third and final episode of Hotel Room, featuring a certain Crispin Glover that Xan is a little bit fond of.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
And Alicia Witt.
Yeah.
Who I'm a fan of. But this is where she was much younger, so can't be that much of a fan when she's this young.
Well, at least you're not like Gersten fan of her.
Yeah. Gersten is not exactly a crushable character.
It's a little bit gross.
in Twin Peaks: The Return, yes, a little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Return. It's okay, but tragic, but not in original Twin Peaks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you don't want to.
There are other things Alicia Witt has performed in that would probably be much more crush-worthy. I'm just saying.
Cecil B. Demented.
There you go.
Have you seen Cecil B. Demented?
I have not, actually.
She's adorable in it.
Okay, there you go.
But I will say, it is an NC-17 rated John Waters movie. So.
Okay. Oh, and I forgot to mention one thing.
What's that?
On Twitter, we got a very special follow.
Did we now? We
did. And I'm wearing a T-shirt in honor of them.
I have to stand up and go back over to my computer because I walked away to try and do a quick errand.
Well, that's what you get for doing errands during the podcast.
Well, like Creature from the Black Lagoon fell on the floor. What do you want me to do?
There you go. But, yeah, so there you go. So I'm wearing my Double R Diner shirt.
Oh.
In honor today because we got a follow from the official Double R Diner, Tweeds
Heck yeah,
Cafe.
Tweeds, baby.
So I want to give a special shout out to them. I don't know if you're listening.
Thank you, Tweeds.
But thank you, Tweets. So yeah, we're getting followed by the Double R Diner, you guys, which is pretty sweet,
Heck
right?
yeah. Especially since they have fantastic meatloaf.
That's true. You've been there.
I've been there twice, baby.
Yeah. So I want to give them some love because they gave us love in return. So
thank you, Tweeds. Yes, if you are in that area, in the Snoqualmie, greater Snoqualmie area,
right,
you definitely want to go to Tweeds. Good coffee, good pie, good atmosphere. Formica tables. I don't know what else you want.
Formica tables.
Actually, yellow are their color, though.
Yellow is their color?
Yeah, yellow is their color.
Yellow is their color. Okay, not green.
Yeah. There is coffee and cherry pie all the time. And you can get breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And their meatloaf is fantastic.
If you, swing by, that place is worth a stop. Just saying.
Mm-hmm. If you ever get up this way, that cherry pie is worth a stop for sure.
All right, but
you can buy all kinds of like Double R Diner swag there, T-shirts, mugs, all kinds of stuff.
And of course, we need to support them because hey, we want to keep the Double R Diner alive, right?
Heck yeah! Not only is it the Double R Diner, it's a diner, and diners rule.
Exactly. I'm a big diner fan myself, so I'm right there with you. I love
raised on the diner food, weren't you?
Pretty much. I mean, not yep. Strictly diner, but I grew up in a family restaurant, but I have a deep appreciation for diner food. So, so it's kind of my jam. So, Xan, thank you so much. Had a lot of fun, and everybody else, come on back. Episode 99, Blackout. Crispin Glover, Alicia Witt, Xan Sprouse, and yours truly, right here on Ghost with the Twin Peaks podcast. Goodbye, everybody.